Was Donald Trump's decision to move against Nicolás Maduro shaped in part by anger over being denied the Nobel Peace Prize? White House officials reportedly viewed Venezuelan opposition leader María Corina Machado's decision to accept the award herself, rather than publicly insisting it belonged to Donald Trump, as an ultimate sin, with one insider claiming she would have become Venezuela's president had she refused it in his favor. Although Machado later dedicated the prize to Trump for his support, that gesture failed to satisfy him. Long obsessed with winning the Nobel Prize, Trump publicly belittled Machado's leadership after the US strikes, signaling that her praise was insufficient and underscoring how personal grievance had bled into US policy toward Venezuela. His decision to order a direct military operation against the country without seeking congressional authorization marks one of the most consequential assertions of unilateral presidential power in modern U.S. history. The seizure of President Nicolás Maduro by U.S. forces was not only shocking for its scale and speed, but also for the way it bypassed constitutional norms, international law, and established diplomatic channels. Standing before reporters after the operation, Trump hailed the assault as spectacular and historic, likening it to a World War-era campaign. Yet what stood out was not triumphalism about combating drugs or restoring democracy, the justifications his administration had leaned on for months, but his fixation on Venezuela's oil. Over the course of an hour-long press conference, Trump returned repeatedly to the subject, even when it bore no relation to the questions asked. That emphasis reinforced long-standing accusations from Caracas that Washington's true objective was regime change tied to controls of natural resources. Trump openly claimed that Venezuela had stolen oil from the United States and that the invasion amounted to taking it back, a claim rooted in decades-old nationalization policies, but rejected by legal experts who say the US has no lawful ownership claim over Venezuelan reserves. More striking still was what Trump did not do. He did not ask Congress for permission to wage war. Under the US Constitution, the power to declare war rests with Congress and Congress alone. While presidents have often stretched that authority, Trump's action went far beyond precedent. There was no imminent threat to the United States, no attack triggering self-defense provisions, and no congressional vote authorizing force. Instead, Trump acted alone, treating Venezuela not as a sovereign state, but as a problem to be solved by executive fiat. The White House justified the invasion by citing drug trafficking and migration, yet offered no public evidence that Maduro posed a clear and present danger. Venezuela, for all its authoritarianism and criminal networks, lacks the capacity to threaten the US militarily. The administration's legal rationale, charging Maduro with narco-terrorism, appears designed after the fact to legitimize what was, in essence, an unprovoked act of war. The drug war rationale also collapses under the weight of Trump's selective morality. While citing alleged narcotics links as grounds for invading Venezuela and abducting its president, Trump quietly pardoned the former Honduran president Juan Orlando Hernandez, whose administration was deeply entangled with drug traffickers and whose security forces were repeatedly implicated in moving cocaine north. In Honduras, Trump found no urgency to defend democracy or dismantle narco-states. On the contrary, Hernandez was treated as a valued ally so long as he cooperated on migration and security. Apparently, drug trafficking justifies regime change only when the accused leader is politically inconvenient, ideologically unfriendly, or sitting atop vast oil reserves. International reaction was swift and alarmed. Regional leaders warned that the operation shattered norms protecting sovereignty and raised fears that any government falling out of favor with Washington could face similar treatment. Colombia's president condemned the move as destabilizing. Cuba, heavily dependent on Venezuelan energy, braced for severe fallout. Elsewhere in Latin America, memories resurfaced of past US interventions justified by ideology, security, or economic interest. The echoes of earlier invasions were hard to miss. Trump's operation recalled the 1989 US assault on Panama, when American troops captured Manuel Noriega and brought him to the US to stand trial. But unlike Panama, Trump did not even attempt to build a coalition or secure congressional approval. He neither consulted allies nor sought United Nations backing, effectively sidelining the international system the US once championed. By acting alone, Trump set a dangerous global precedent. Critics argue his behavior mirrors the logic he condemns elsewhere, using force to remove leaders deemed hostile. Russia pointed to the invasion as evidence of Western hypocrisy over Ukraine. China, already pressing its claims over Taiwan, observed how easily norms could be discarded. Iran, another frequent Trump target, openly warned that the operation lowered the threshold for future wars. Meanwhile, inside Venezuela, the consequences remain deeply uncertain. Although Maduro was removed, much of the state apparatus remains intact. Senior figures have called for resistance, and reports of civilian casualties are now emerging. A power vacuum risks triggering internal conflict, fragmentation of the military, or prolonged instability, outcomes the Trump regime appeared to have given little thought, after firing most of the in-house lawyers that might have recommended against such an invasion. The notion that exiled opposition figures will swiftly return to restore democracy is widely viewed as unrealistic. Political transitions imposed by foreign force rarely produce stable outcomes, particularly when institutions have been hollowed out and social trust eroded. The invasion may have decapitated the government, but it has not resolved Venezuela's underlying crises. Trump's unilateralism also deepens concern among US allies. European leaders, already wary of his disregard for multilateralism, now face a US president willing to launch a major military operation without legislative oversight. Britain, the EU, and other democracies see the move as a direct challenge to the rules-based international order, one that weakens their ability to argue for restraint elsewhere. The episode further undermines Trump's self-portrayal as a peacemaker. Despite campaign promises to end forever wars and resist nation-building, his record now tells a different story. Airstrikes have expanded across the Middle East and Africa, civilian protections have been loosened, and military threats have multiplied from Iran to Yemen and even extraordinarily against Greenland, a territory of a NATO ally. Whether Trump is acting out of impulse or calculation remains debated. Some see a president improvising policy driven by grievance and spectacle. Others see a leader deliberately shifting conflict abroad as domestic options narrow, using the world stage to project power and shape a legacy. What is clear is that by refusing to involve Congress, Trump has weakened one of the central checks on American war-making. The invasion of Venezuela was not just an attack on a foreign government, but on the constitutional balance itself. In doing so, Trump has normalized the idea that a US president can unilaterally decide questions of war and peace. That precedent may prove as destabilizing at home as it is abroad, as rumors begin of Trump's desire to replace Maduro as retribution for his failure to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with MeidasTouch.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.